I'm very happy and excited to be here this morning and to kind of close your morning off, hopefully leave you with a little bit of inspiration, motivation that you can take into your afternoons and into what I'm sure is going to be a wonderful evening. So I'm going to talk to you about seeking meaning over transactions and the 5 principles that I truly believe we need to embrace, we need to apply to our businesses to reach the hearts of our clients' needs. I'm going to share these principles by sharing my own experiences and lessons learned across countries, continents, and cultures that I absolutely embrace today as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a one-on-one in this region, and that I strongly encourage you to consider about how you can apply them into your businesses. I don't stand here on this stage like I'm any sort of expert. There's nothing I share with you today that comes from an expertise perspective. I have failed at catastrophic, life-changing, life-altering situations leading soldiers in combat. I failed in a corporate environment, more routine, more mundane if you like. And I fail frequently at the moment, it seems, in my own small business ownership and entrepreneurship. So everything I share with you today comes from my own lens, my own experiences of failures, and everything I share with you, I absolutely incorporate and try to apply into my business today. So 5 principles. I'm going to get straight into it. Principle number 1. It's all about character and mindsets. Character over technical competence, mindset over skill set. It was 2004. I was stood in the English countryside. The morning mist was giving way to the rising sun. It could almost have been romantic until I heard the shouts. Blue number 54, blue number 54, blue number 54. That was me. It was my turn. I was on the final day of a 6-day assessment to see if I had what it took to be selected to be trained as a leader in the British Army. This is the final day, the final test. I make my way to where the shouting is coming from, and there awaits my assessor who's barely left my side in 5.5 days. Ahead of me lies this last assessment, this last test. It's an assault course, an individual assault course made up of around 20 separate obstacles. I'm stood on the start line. I've never been more motivated. My adrenaline's pumping. And I look ahead, and in the distance I see the first obstacle. It's a window frame, a steel window frame, hollow, mounted on a pole about 3 to 4 feet off the ground. All I have to do is run as fast as I can and dive headfirst through the window frame. It's designed deliberately in such a way that it'll absolutely hurt, but chances are it won't seriously injure you. I'm ready to prove to them how fit, fast, and strong I am. You ready? Blue number 54. I'm ready, I say. 3, 2, 1, go. I put my head down and I sprint as fast as I can. I get to the base of this window frame. I put my arms out in front of me and I dive head first through that window frame. I hit the ground hard. It hurts. I get up. I dust myself off. I'm not too injured, so I keep on making my way to that second obstacle. And as I'm making my way to the second obstacle, out the corner of my eye, I will see something I will never, ever forget. I will be taught a lesson that will take me 3 years to learn. Out the corner of my eye, my assessor, who has literally not left my side in 5.5 days, simply turns around and nonchalantly disappears and walks off into the nearby woods. This is before the days of electronic time tagging. This is good old stopwatch and clipboard days. And if they're not stood on that assault course, if they can't see that finish line, they'll have no idea what time I get, no idea if I complete the obstacles. And yet, in that millisecond, I'm left with no other decision but just to continue. And for the next 10 minutes, I give it everything I have, all alone. I eventually cross the finish line. My hands are on my knees. My body is screaming for oxygen that it cannot get quick enough. And yet I realize one thing. Nobody had reappeared. Nobody saw me complete that assault course. Nobody has any idea what time I got. I stand there, confused, perplexed, not for the first time or last time in my life. It feels like an eternity, but it's just a minute or two. And then my assessor naturally reappears again from the nearby woods and shouts something along the lines of, "Okay, blue number 54, that's it. Go back to your room, pack your bags, and get out of here." In language way more fruitful than that. 3 years later, I'm no longer blue number 54. I'm a lieutenant leading soldiers in Helmand Province, Afghanistan, a team of 40 soldiers in combat. I've been there a number of months already. We've already experienced the absolute worst that humanity has to offer. We've also experienced optimism, positivity, glimmers of hope, children laughing, walking, playing in the street. And we're preparing to go on a daily combat mission. Another daily combat mission with no idea what lies ahead or what the consequences may be. Apart from that day, at that time, something is different. Hours earlier, our sister platoon, who we lived with and breathed with back home in the UK, who were also deployed alongside us in Helmand Province, were en route to deliver some vital equipment to our location when they were ambushed by the Taliban. One soldier was killed, one is injured, and all will be forever scarred. I knew that soldier well. I know those soldiers well. Even worse, the team that I lead are best friends with that soldier, best friends with those soldiers. And I just had to look them in the eye and tell them that one of their friends had just been killed. And as we're preparing to go on that daily combat mission that we still have to go on, that I still need to lead this team on, I look around at the faces of those I have the privilege and those I've been entrusted to lead. I see the face of the 19-year-old, barely out of high school, teary glazed, watery eyes that simply scream, "I am scared, I want to go home." I look next to them. I see the veteran, the hardened veteran of known and unknown wars, who's filled with utter anger, hatred, and rage right now because one of their friends has just been killed, that I, as their leader, am absolutely petrified about the negative consequences they could have on that mission. And as the helicopters come in to support us on that mission, and the vehicles start up, it hits me. It finally hits me. 3 years earlier, when I was stood in that English countryside, when I was told to get around that assault course as fast as I can, nobody ever cared whatsoever how fit, fast, or strong I was. They never cared if it took me 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or if I ever even finished. The only thing they cared about, the only thing they ever cared about, is that I would dive through that window frame head first. Because that, like every other single assessment and test I ever did, had everything to do with uncovering our character and mindset, and absolutely nothing to do with our technical competence and skill set. They wanted to see if I would dive through that window frame head first, because it would help them understand if I had the potential that in 3 years' time, I could be in that desert in Helmand Province and show absolute openness and vulnerability as a leader, put my hand on the shoulder of that 19-year-old and look them in the eyes and say, "I am really scared too. I really want to go home too." And follow it up immediately with a harsh integrity and honesty, which made them realize we're not going home yet because we've got a job to do, but it's going to be okay. By diving through that window frame head first, it told them that potentially I was humble enough within my character, I was humble enough that stood in that desert 3 years later, I could turn to another member of my team who was one of the other junior, youngest members of the team of 40 people I led, who I'm supposed to show wisdom to and have all the answers for, and say to them, "I don't know what to do. I need your help." I know you have a connection with this individual right now who's filled with utter anger and hatred and rage because one of their friends has just been killed. Can you please help me? Can you please advise me? Can you please speak to them? I don't know what to do. I need your help. You see, the British Army trains for, selects for, hires for, promotes for character. Character and mindset over technical competence and skill set. And by technical competence and skill set, I mean your level of technical qualifications, your level of education, your number of years in the industry. It realized decades ago, that character and mindset is the bridge that allows us to bring everything else into play. Like your technical competencies, skill set, they're on this side of the river. And it's character and mindset, which is a bridge that allows us to put them to use. All of this technical competence, all of our skill set, a number of years of experience in the industry is absolutely and utterly irrelevant if we do not have the bridge and the character. It's like that old IQ and EQ conversation. Your IQ in the real estate industry is absolutely and utterly irrelevant and absolutely useless if you do not have the emotional intelligence to put it to use. So what is my message? I'm not a lieutenant in Afghanistan. You're not blue number 54. But we are small business owners, entrepreneurs, one-of-ones, facing your own unique challenges. I think my message is pretty simple. In our society, we overrate technical competence and we underrate character. We overrate skill sets and we underrate mindsets. We do it when we look around and see who we might want to partner with in our organizations to help our businesses grow. We do it when we look at outsourcing, at hiring other people, subcontracting services out, prioritizing their technical competence over their character. And we do it, most importantly, I think, for you folks sat here today, when we promote, brand, and market ourselves. We overrate technical competence and we underrate character. Unfortunately, often putting our best foot forward as the number of years of experience we have in the industry. And yet it's character that is our defining factor. It is character that is the only thing that separates you from the person sat next to you. And when I was preparing for today, I thought, how can I make this message resonate a little bit more? How can I ask your clients why they would refer you, and you're an industry building referrals for the most part, why they would refer you, why they would hire you again. But then I realized I didn't have to ask them because you've already asked them. And so I went online and I pulled off the last 50 testimonials that were wrote by REMAX agents in Atlantic Canada in the last 6 months. And I got all kind of squirrely, got my Excel spreadsheet out. I don't even know if kids use Excel spreadsheets anymore, but I got my Excel spreadsheet out and I got all those testimonies. I pulled out every single adjective that was used. Every single describing word that was used. And in 50 testimonials, 120 times an adjective was used. About 30 different adjectives in total. And I grouped them. I said, you know what? Is this something to do with character or is this something to do with technical competence? And when your clients write publicly about why they would work with you again, why they would refer you, 75% of the time, 75% of the words, the adjectives that they use to describe their experience to you have absolutely everything to do with character and absolutely nothing to do with technical competence. 75% of the time. I'm not saying that technical competence is not important. The British Army was not saying that. I don't want to hire a real estate agent who doesn't know how to help me navigate all the complexities and challenges. I'm not saying it's not important. But what I am saying, I absolutely have conviction, is that character is your defining factor. Mindset is your defining factor. Like our businesses, honestly, I'm going to make it plural, like our businesses, even though I'm not in your industry, success is 90% mindset, 10% skill set. 90% mindset. Mindset to know that it's not win or lose, be accepted in a listing presentation, be rejected, fail or succeed. It's win and lose, 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 then win again. It's be accepted, then be rejected 5 times in a row. It's mindset that helps you navigate those challenges. Principle number 1, don't overrate your technical competence while underrating your character. Character is how you make that connection with your clients. Character is how you make them feel seen, heard, and understood. And character is how you get to the hearts of their needs. Principle number 1. Principle number 2, there is no blueprint. There is no blueprint. Or as Oscar Wilde famously said, be yourself, everyone else is already taken. There's so much noise out there. There's so many opinions, so many thoughts, so many perspectives about who you should be, how you should do it, how you should show up, especially in your industry. Honestly, I get anxious just thinking about what it must be like to be in your industry. And yet, as Wade rightly pointed out with his AI conversation, the world is craving authenticity right now. The world's always craved authenticity, but with everything that's happened over the last 3 or 4 years, the world is craving it. And your clients are buying authenticity. You cannot emulate anybody else. I'm not saying that success doesn't leave clues, but I am saying that you cannot emulate anybody else. You have to be yourself. You have to be truly authentic in how you run your business and how it's aligned to your personal values. There's a reason I believe in this so much, is that 3 things are going to happen to us all no matter what. And I think we adapt, change, shape, mold, and adjust who we are to try and avoid one or more of those 3 things happening. Number 1, you're going to fail. Now, honestly, you're going to fail. Like, I'm going to fail. I'm going to stand on the stage someday, and maybe it's today, maybe the technology doesn't work, or maybe I forget, my message or whatever it is. Like, we're all going to fail. And that's such an obvious statement. And yet, we spend a lot of time trying to avoid it. Can't avoid it. Just embrace it. We're going to fail. Number 2, haters are going to hate. Get off, Taylor. It's not your day. She stole it from me. No. Haters are going to hate. What I mean by that is not everyone's going to buy in. Not everyone's going to buy in to who you are, how you do it, how you show up. Honestly, not everyone's buying in right now to me stood on this stage sharing this message. And I don't mean that from an arrogant perspective, I don't care. Of course, I would love to walk off here and everyone say, oh, that was fantastic. That's just a stupid, utopia, ridiculous expectation that I'll never achieve. Not everyone's going to buy into who you are, how you do it, how you show up. And the 3rd thing that's guaranteed to happen is you've got a bullseye on your back. I've got a bullseye on my back. The more successful you become, whatever that word means to you, the more influential you become, again, whatever that word means to you, the larger that bullseye gets, and the more people are going to hit it. We all have a bullseye on your back. I'm tired now thinking about the amount of energy I've wasted in my life, justifying my decisions, defending my actions, to try and avoid people hitting that bullseye on the back, and they still hit it anyway. And there is nothing worse than that. So one of those 3 things, or all of those 3 things, are going to happen to us all. But I think we subconsciously and unconsciously adapt, change, shape, mold who we are to try and avoid those things happening. And in doing that, we absolutely lose our authenticity and we absolutely lose our ability to connect with our clients. I learned this the hard way. I was 26 years old, about 6 weeks before I was supposed to deploy into combat for the first time. From the outside, the team I led, morale looked good. We passed all the training we were going to deploy from the outside. But from the inside, things just didn't feel right. They were okay, but they just weren't quite right. And then somebody I led, way wiser than myself, pulled me aside and said, hey, when you showed up here 18 months ago, you were different. We started to like you. We started to respect you. We started to follow you. Now, we don't know who you've turned into. We don't like you. We don't respect you. And we are not going to follow you. And what has happened is, I've always been pretty open. I've always worn my heart on my sleeve. And I remember the day I took over this team of soldiers. I took over the role as their leader. There was 40 of them. And I stood in front of them. I was 26 years old. And I absolutely became intimidated. These are battle-hardened soldiers with experiences around the world. Sierra Leone, Bosnia, Northern Ireland, Iraq. Here I was as their young leader. Imposter syndrome kicked in. And consciously and subconsciously, over the following few months, I took that heart off my sleeve. I started to hide all of my weaknesses, hide all of my vulnerabilities, only maximize my strengths. I wasn't showing up true to the person I was, and I was still failing. And that hurt to the absolute core. And from that day on, I just said, you know what? I'm just going to be myself, because everyone else is already taken. Now, that's where I thought the story ended, until this person. That's my daughter. She's 13. That's our daddy-daughter date day at Invisalign here in Bedford about 2 or 3 weeks ago. This photo was taken. But our lives changed quite a lot a few years ago with our daughter, and through some ridiculous circumstances I clearly don't understand, she developed Tourette's syndrome overnight. Tourette's syndrome, she has the extreme version of Tourette's syndrome where you swear a lot and you make a lot of offensive actions. Like some of the worst language and actions that you can imagine right now, that's what she'll make. And it's heightened emotions that bring it on. And so there's some funny things that come with this, to be honest. There's some light-hearted moments. I remember it was Christmas time 2020, and we celebrate Christmas in our culture, and we walked over to my in-laws' house, her grandparents' house. We opened the front door, and she saw the Christmas decorations, and the heightened emotions brought on the Tourette's. And I'm going to swear here. And she opened the front door, and she goes, "F you, a-holes." And I turned around, and I gave her the biggest high five of my life and said, I have waited 15 years to say that to them. 15 years. To this day, Jackie Burke, she lives in Lower Sackville. I don't know if anyone knows her. She's my mother-in-law. To this day, her eyes just stared at me, and every time I see her, I smile inside, knowing that she got told what I wanted to say. There's also tragic moments with it. During the same time frame, we were shopping for school supplies, and kids getting school supplies brings out lots of excitement, apparently. And so we were walking around Staples, just me and Isla, the daughter, walking around Staples, and she started to really swear at a lot of people, all strangers. And, as a parent, as dad, it was absolutely heartbreaking. And so we decided, me and my wife, and, the medical system, if you like, had decided that she was going to get medication. There is no medication to treat this. There's other medication you take where the side effect suppresses it. And my daughter's pretty easy to parent. That's not because we're good parents, because my son is an absolute disaster to parent. But my daughter is pretty easy to parent. And we were driving that medical appointment that day, but she was being so difficult, like so adamant, so reluctant, like literally refusing to go to this medical appointment, like really out of character for her. And we're driving down Hammonds Plains Road. For those who are in the region, it's just outside of Halifax here. Driving down Hammonds Plains Road, and I was trying to understand what was going on. So I said to her, honey, I just need to understand, like, what is going on? Why do you not want to go to this medical appointment? I'll never forget what happened next. She looked at me in the rearview mirror and made eye contact, and she said, there is nothing wrong with me. It is just you and you lot, and by that she meant the adults in life, who think there's something wrong with me. It is just my magic. It is just my magic. I stopped the car, literally slowed down, turned into the Kingswood gas station, that area there, Kingswood Market area, for those who know it. Slowed down, turned into there. Took some deep breaths, chatted to her a little bit, and we turned the car away, cut the car around, and we drove home, and we never went to that medical appointment. And to this day, we never made it to that medical appointment because she leads us in how she manages it. Because she's absolutely determined that she has this magic, and nobody is going to suppress it. So my message to you, the point of all this, is we all have magic. And I don't mean magic and these grand fireworks that you are that entertainer who's going to go viral on social media. Maybe that's not your magic. Maybe your magic, you're so introverted that you're amazing at sitting in the corner of the room and really connecting with your clients. But whatever our magic is, in our society as adults, we kind of think we have to suppress it, numb it out, dumb it down. Every single one of us has this unique quirkiness. We're always going to be too much for some people, too little for some people, too much for that business, too little for that industry. We have to own our magic. We have to own our magic. We have to be ourselves. Everyone else is already taken. Principle number 2, there is no blueprint. Know your magic, own it, and be yourself. Principle number 3, I'll let you read the title. Because that's a bold statement for somebody who's not actually a realtor, doesn't work in your industry. But I'm telling you today, you're not involved in buying or selling real estate. You're not. I'm convinced of it. And I hope to convince you a little bit about it as well. It's bigger than that. It's much, much bigger than that. Some of you may have heard the story, 1666, Great Fire of London, burnt down St. Paul's Cathedral, London in England. The city was pretty much flattened. The famous architect at the time, Sir Christopher Wren, was entrusted to oversee the rebuild of that cathedral. 5 years later, in 1671, they're walking around the task site. They're observing progress, see how things are going. And they come across 3 bricklayers. 3 bricklayers who are doing the exact same task on the exact same part of the cathedral. And they ask each bricklayer in turn, "What are you doing?" So Christopher Wren walks that first bricklayer and says, "What are you doing?" The bricklayer barely stops and says, "I'm laying bricks." So Christopher Wren moves on, walks to the second bricklayer, doing the exact same task on the exact same part of the cathedral, and asks, "What are you doing?" This time that bricklayer pauses a little bit, turns around a little bit, and says, "I'm rebuilding a wall." So Christopher Wren walks up to the final bricklayer, exact same task, exact same part of the cathedral, and asks him the exact same question. "What are you doing?" This time that bricklayer stops, put down their tools. They stand up, they turn around, and they look Sir Christopher Wren in the eyes with pride and say, "I am rebuilding a cathedral." The exact same task carried out by 3 people in the exact same part of the cathedral. 3 very different answers depending on how they understood the bigger problem that they were involved in, how well they understood the bigger meaning that they were trying to contribute to. 3.5 centuries later, I had to put this lesson to use myself personally while in Helmand province. For months on end, we were in enemy territory, behind enemy lines. We had absolutely no communication with the outside world whatsoever, apart from handwritten letters. It was too dangerous to get resupplies to us often, so we got a resupply about every 3 to 4 weeks. I'll never forget the day the resupply was coming in. It was about 4 weeks since we'd received any resupply. We'd get food, water, ammunition, and mail. The helicopter, you could hear the sound. It bounces off the valley floors. They flew so low to avoid enemy detection. Bounce, boom, 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 boom. It gets louder and louder. You know it's coming to our location. Morale just skyrockets straight away. I'm leading a team of 40 soldiers, and we were in a wider group of about 150 soldiers. The helicopter's coming in. It's too dangerous for it to land, so they kind of skid in the air, and like everything gets dropped off, and in about a minute they're gone in a massive dust cloud. The dust cloud settles. We start to distribute everything that came off it. We start to hand out the mail. I stand there anxiously waiting for the mail from me, the mail from my team. I stand there anxiously as those mail bags are handed out until there's none left, and there were none for me and my team. Morale hit absolutely rock bottom. I've never been in an environment where morale was as low as that. I get onto the combat radio and talk to this a smaller team that I've left in a different location, whose role, amongst many others, is to sort out the mail and distribute it to make sure it gets to our location. I'm really mad, I'm really frustrated, I'm really angry. And they say, I don't understand why you're so mad, frustrated. You got your food, you got your water, you got your ammunition. It was just mail. It was when they said those words, it was just mail, that I knew that I'd failed. I'd failed as a leader to attach a bigger meaning and a bigger importance to that job they were doing. No, it's not just mail, I said to them, pleading with them. The conversation went on. We spoke a little bit more. I explained that it's not just mail, it's news from home, it's news from loved ones. I said, okay, we get it now. It's news from home, it's news from loved ones. And whilst that helped, it didn't fill the void I felt. I said, yes, it is that, but that's still not enough. We spoke a little bit more, and all of a sudden it went silent for like 20 seconds. And then they said something. It was their words, not mine. They said, oh, we get it now. We're not delivering mail. We're not delivering news. We're delivering hope. Yes, hope. They were delivering hope. And 4 weeks later, it'd been 8 weeks before we received any hope. When that helicopter came in and that dust cloud settled, there, like bags of gold, were our bags of hope. And we never, ever failed to receive our hope when we were able to attach that routine, mundane, administrative task to a bigger purpose. We all go about our businesses. We talk about CRM systems. We talk about nurturing our clients, lead magnets, sales funnels, sales stats, sales figures, all these sort of things, which are absolutely fantastic, and you need to talk about them, and they make an effective business. And yet, behind every single one of these things, every single one of those listings is a real human, often a real family, with a real problem that you are trying to help solve. Lieutenant Phil Jewell, Helmand Province, Afghanistan. My dearest Phil, I pray for you all the time. I hope you stay strong and focused in all that you're doing out there. You're brave. I love you so much. Keep your heart strong and brave too. This actual real letter that was wrote to me 17 years ago, it's never a letter. It's never news from home. It was hope. Thanks. But let's bring that closer to home, even for you folks. I'm on the right, my wife's on the left. In the center is Sue Jaksic, a REMAX realtor, our REMAX realtor in St. Albert. There you go, one of your clients. We all had a lot of circumstances going in COVID in 2020. We all know it was a disaster year. We had our own tragedy, personal tragedy. And we had to move back home to Nova Scotia. Don't let my accent deceive it, this is my home. We had to move home to Nova Scotia. It wasn't a case of moving home in 2 months when the borders opened up or the market might have been a little better. We had to move home, and we had to move home last week. Sue, we'd stayed connected, as friends, as, our agent over the previous few years. So she, we didn't even know, she was actually off, doing the real estate right there because of COVID. But she came to the house, she came to the door, and she had all the market analysis. She had all this listing presentation, as you'd expect. And she opened the door, and she saw the heartache in me and my wife's eyes because of the tragedy we'd suffered. She put everything down. She gave my wife a big hug. She put her hand on my arm. She leant in. She was curious about what the situation was. And then she looked us both in the eyes and said, "Don't worry. I will get you home." She knew right there and then that she was not selling our house. She was not helping us move across country. She was getting us home. There's a left-hand picture of my kids, our sold sign. In the right hand, a random guy dancing with my wife and the sold sign. That's what happens after you come out of lockdown and you have a street party. We may or may not still have that sold sign, sorry. Principle number 3, you are not helping somebody buy or sell real estate. It's bigger than that. It's a lot bigger than that. Understand the problem that you are helping trying to solve and understand what the solution looks like. Because it's not what you think it is. Connect to the hearts of your clients' needs. Make them feel seen, heard, and understood. Meet them where they're at, not where you're at. Principle number 4. Embrace irrelevancy. Embrace irrelevancy. It's 2006. I was back in the countryside on another 10-day assessment, if you like. Even though we're in our roles and we're likely to deploy to combat in the next couple of months, we have to go through a final assessment, another assessment to make sure if all the training we've been given is sufficient enough for us to lead. It's day 8 of the exercise. It's December. We just want to go home and spend Christmas with our families. I'm tired, cold, wet, hungry. The team that I subsequently lead have already gone through their assessment phase. They've already passed, they'll deploy. I'm about to go through my individual assessment phase as a leader. There's 100,000 people in the British Army at the time. I'll be replaced in a nanosecond if I do not meet the expectations. I walk over to my assessors to receive my orders. They say, okay, pick up your weapon, pick up your equipment, and over there is a little hut, a little cabin. All we want you to do is go in there and lock the door. In there, you'll find a little cot bed, enough food and water for the next 48 hours, and a small washroom. I'm confused, I'm perplexed, not for the first time or last time in my life. And I say to them, I'm sorry, I think there's been some misunderstanding. I'm actually Lieutenant Jewell. I'm about to go through my selection phase. And they cut me off, and they take half a step forward just so they can intimidate me a little bit more. And they say, oh no, a Lieutenant Jewell. There has been no misunderstanding. We know exactly who you are. And we're going to assess you and your individual capability, your leadership ability, your character. We're going to assess everything about you based on how that team you lead performs when you're not there. For the next 48 hours, they locked me in a hut. They threw this team all sorts of challenges and observed how they acted. And the only person they were assessing is the one person who wasn't there, myself. Because it told them everything they needed to know about who I was. It told them how much I tried to create an environment of psychological safety, truly an environment of trust where people could show up as themselves. It told them how much I tried to avoid being that central decision maker. And so others felt they could make decisions, could take actions without being worried about the negative consequences. It told them everything they needed to know. So how does that apply to us, to you folks here? Here's the thing. Like our businesses, our brands, our one-of-one, whatever you are only as effective, are only as strong as how well they can keep moving forward, or at least how well they can stand on their own 2 feet when you're not there driving them. Because we can't always be there driving them. We have to strive to make ourselves irrelevant. Just a little bit. The irony is not lost to me that I am stood on this stage right now and I am my product and service that I am delivering. Like, I'm not irrelevant. Like, hey, Naz, sorry, Phil can't be here. We're going to send some other random person. And it just doesn't, the irony is not lost to me. But it doesn't mean that I'm not trying to put systems in place into my business to make myself just a little bit irrelevant. It doesn't mean that I haven't partnered with other people across the country who do what I do, and we're sharing each other's IP and content so we can deliver it on behalf of each other. It doesn't mean that I'm not looking to build a brand. My brand is Impact Leadership. My brand is not Phil Jewell. We have to strive to make ourselves irrelevant just a little bit more. If only we can go on a long weekend with our families and not have to be responsive to that phone. If only we can take a vacation. Because here's the thing as well, and I'm not going to debate this because it's your industry, and I hear this all the time, like real estate's 24/7. Real estate's 24/7. Right, okay, real estate's 24/7. Got it. But you know who's not 24/7? You, me, humans. It's not sustainable. It's not manageable. We are not 24/7. We have to make ourselves irrelevant just a little bit more. We have to build teams or partners we can trust who can do that closing for us so we can go on that planned vacation that we're supposed to go on. To make it sustainable, so you can build a business which actually lasts, so you can build a legacy, we have to strive to make ourselves irrelevant just a little bit more. Principle number 4. So there's 4 principles I've shared with you so far. I promised 5, and there is 5. There's one more. It's just as powerful, but it's short. But I've got a favor to ask you, and you'll appreciate this in your industry. I've got a favor to ask you. I want to get your feedback. I want to get your feedback so I can continue to share this message. So I'd love if you can take out your phones, scan the QR code, enter REMAX. I want to get your feedback. It's going to help me share the message, but also this feedback I get straight away, and I'll be able to share with Naz, Ryan, Craig, the other leaders, so they know how relevant my speech was to you, so you can have more of it in the future or less of it in the future if it wasn't relevant. But also, I want to be able to continue to share my message. Now, if you do that, there's a bonus video. You know in my story about getting to the hearts of client needs and you're not buying or selling real estate? There's one word that you should never, ever, ever use, ever, when you're trying to understand the problem that you're trying to solve. Do you know what that word might be? Why? Why do you want to sell? Never, ever use why. I explain that in the video, and then I give you different alternatives, questions that you can ask to get to the hearts of your client needs. I'll go awkwardly quiet for 30 seconds, get a drink while you folks fill it in. It takes 30 seconds to fill it in, but I really appreciate it. Okay. There's a final principle, final story about another letter. Another letter I wrote. A very different letter, a very different meaning, and a very, very different ending. During that particular combat mission, the risk was deemed so high that we all had to write a letter home to our loved ones that we read if we never actually made it home. Tragically, two of our soldiers never made it home, and those letters that they wrote had to be read. About 8 months after writing that letter, I was in the desert in Afghanistan, and we'd been moved from different locations, and we got to a location which was relatively safe, shall we say. Deemed safe enough that we were handed back our letters. And I took my letter. It was a sealed envelope that I had written 8 months earlier. I took that letter, and I walked out into this dark, dirty desert floor. The moon lit it up. I looked at the front of that letter. It was still sealed. And in my handwriting, it said, "To only ever be opened by Sarah." Sarah's my wife, the lady in the picture, the person I referred to. We've been together a long time. She's been through this with me all. I took that letter. I didn't open it. I ripped it into 4 pieces. I took my lighter. I lit it. And I let it burn and drop in that desert floor. Those words died into ashes that day. She never got to read that letter. To this day, she has no idea what was wrote in that letter. Those words disappeared, apart from one thing. Those words live in my soul every single day. They live right here. They are my absolute accountability partner. They're my internal alarm clock that remind me that this is not a practice life. This is not it. This is not a rehearsal. This is our only moment. Don't wait till you feel ready to say yes, because we might not ever get the opportunity again. We'll never feel ready. We'll never feel like we have enough. We'll never feel like we have the resources, the financial cash flow to hire an assistant. The traffic lights of life, Tim Ferriss said, are always red or never green. I say the traffic lights of business are never green. They're full of red, they're full of amber. There's barely any green in them whatsoever. You're going to fail. Do it anyway. People are going to judge you. Do it anyway. Haters are going to hate. Do it anyway. You have a bullseye on your back and people are going to hit it. Do it anyway. This is not a rehearsal. When I was really, really faced with my true mortality and I had to write that letter, those words are like tattooed on the inside of my soul, and they remind me every day that we'll never feel ready. We've got to do it anyway. There's my 5 principles. 5 principles that I really believe we should embrace, consider about how we can apply them into our businesses, seeking meaning over transaction and getting to the heart of your client needs. I really appreciate the feedback you've given. If you haven't, I'd really appreciate it if you would. And I want to say thanks to Ryan, Naz, Craig, and to all the other folks to invite me here today. Like I said, I'm a REMAX client, so it's great to be able to kind of give back and be part of this. So thank you very much.